let me assure you that this will have nothing to do with the coronavirus epidemic. This is going to be about the poetry of Robert Browning. So I had paddled around some of Alexander Pope's poetical works, and when I was finished with that, I put the book back in its place, where it was next to the poetical works of Robert Browning. Now, because of the restrictions caused by the epidemic, people are reading more. That's what they say. They may even be reading, one or two of them, Alexander Pope, the master of the heroic couplet. Graduate English students, maybe, working at home, over the computer, struggling on toward their degree. I will allow for that, remote as it seems, but I seriously doubt if anyone is reading Robert Browning. Other than myself, of course. Yes, I read him. What the hell? Strange times, strange occupations. Other people post funny videos. I read Robert Browning. I read My Last Duchess, Porphyria's Lover, The Bishop Orders His Tomb at St. Praxed's Church, Fra Lippo Lippi, Child Roland to the Dark Tower Came, and The Last Ride Together, and Andrea del Sarto. I did not find my way into Child Roland. The rest of them I enjoyed. I read Child Roland, but I didn't get it. Browning is probably not as well known as his wife, the poet Elizabeth Barrett Browning. She wrote the book Sonnets from the Portuguese. How do I love thee? I love thee. Their marriage was not approved, so they eloped and lived in Italy until she died. Browning self-published some of his work, and he was not recognized until late in his life. His best works, I think, were his dramatic monologues, many written in unrhymed iambic pentameter, some in free verse, not an accepted way for a poet to versify, not in Victorian England. His subject matter was similarly not on the approved list. He wrote about oddities, madmen, the relations between men and women, and the nature of art, its proper aim and expression. He spoke in a voice that was almost a secret way of speaking, one that needed to be carefully translated in order to be understood. My Last Duchess is one of his more famous pieces, if he's got one, and it's a hoot. The speaker is a thorough cad who either killed his wife, his last wife, or had her shut away in a convent or a lunatic asylum because she was so sweet and caring, not just to him, but with everyone. He is talking to a marriage broker whom he hopes and expects will arrange a union for him with a rich count's daughter. He is completely oblivious to his shortcomings, which are manifold. He is blinded by his nasty, needy self. The Bishop Orders His Tomb is another howler. He is speaking to his sons, born of a mistress long ago, before his religious calling. He begins by calling out vanity, a subject he knows all too well. He is both vain and envious, though he keeps a pious pose. What a fraud! Browning paints him in stinging detail. And Browning is a painter with his pen. Two of his finest works feature painters, Fra Lippo and Andrea del Sarto. The Fra is a character. I felt like a cop arriving on the scene of I knew not what when I read Browning's poem. Porphyria's lover, because she loves him and belongs to him completely, strangles her and wants to see if God will punish him. Lippo is a monk who is accosted outside a bordello late at night. He talks his way out of it, claiming friendship and protection from a powerful count, and introduces himself as a famous painter. He talks about his life, how he saved himself as an abandoned child by entering a monastery, discovering there that he had a talent for drawing, showing the monks he could paint, and then having to paint what they wanted, scenes that depicted holiness and salvation, lots of saints and cherubs, not what he wanted to paint, the glory of God as expressed in nature. He is greatly frustrated by this, but he finds ways to sneak his own work, even his own image, into the phony but majestic spiritual visions demanded by the friar. All of this is obviously significant for the choices Browning makes in his poetry. I liked The Last Ride Together for a bawdy reason, not necessarily indigenous to the poem. I decided that the last ride was sexual intercourse, and that put an extra charge into the poem for me. Whether Browning intended that reading, I did not care. Finally, I found Andrea del Sarto, the other painter, to be a sad poem. It's sad because, unlike in so many of Browning's other pieces, Andrea is self-aware. He is aware that in his work, although he is never wrong with a single brushstroke, while other painters, even the greatest, frequently mistake in small touches or the placement of a limb, they produce better work because they paint with heart and soul, not just the brush. And he is aware also that his wife, a true beauty, perfection incarnate, his model over and over, does not love him. He asks her to stay with him while he rests, just be with him quietly, but she has to go, to be with a cousin, she says. He knows she is unfaithful. These realizations crush him, but he goes on, determined to make the best of it, knowing his best will fall